So we made it, my friends. It is the end of 2024. I mean, it's not quite, but no one's going to do anything in the next 3 weeks that is going to top this. So join in with me, like the weirdos that we are. There's a round of applause for Drew McIntyre. I did that because it rhymed. Officially the Wrestling Hater of the Year 2024. Now, AJ Styles ran him close when he flew to Australia to beat up LA Knight. And of course, the New Day made a massive play 7 days ago. But I think sometimes you have to go down with someone that has had the longevity. And after that video that played on Raw of Drew McIntyre, it made me laugh out loud. He's unhinged. He's an insane person because after he was bludgeoned to death in the Hell in a Cell, this is kayfabe, obviously, he went home to spend time with his family because he realized, man, I've been negating my family. I need to hang out with them. That's a good thing to do. And then during this loving, caring time, he started to think to himself, maybe I was a bit wrong. Maybe I need to look inward and find myself. When he decided to watch Survivor Series, I hope WWE paid for that. He didn't pay for it himself. And he saw Jey Uso and Sami Zayn team up with Roman Reigns. Gave CM Punk a pass. I mean, I guess because, you know, in reality, you don't want to do that feud again. But gave him a pass, at least he was bribed. He gets a favor. When it comes to Sami and Jey, they sold out for nothing. Which meant he was sat at home in Scotland, Edinburgh, where the hell he lives, Glasgow. He's just there going, whoa, I'm going to turn back up on Raw. I'm going back to work early so I can boot them both in the face. So he's absolutely tremendous. He may be the wrestler of the year in many ways. On that note, you can vote in the Simon Miller Wrestling Awards, the inaugural one I've done of these. There'll be a Google form link down there. Just vote to your heart's content. I appreciate all of the feedback or whatever you want to call it. We've had over 1,000 votes so far, which is way more than I was expecting. And we will obviously do a big video about that. But Drew right now is neck and neck with someone else when it does come to Wrestler of the Year. I mean, would he be mine? He'd be very close. Maybe a top 3 to say the least, but we're not talking about that today. I just think he's been tremendous. And this feud with Sami Zayn has real legs to it, I suppose. Like there's real beef because he didn't really like them before. And now they've gone and team with Roman Reigns, which Drew McIntyre could not handle. I'm pretty sure Drew McIntyre's family could team with Roman Reigns. He would just stab them in the face. But, well, I liked it because of that. But I doubly liked it because there's no standing on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne. We are doing that match at Saturday Night's Main Event in a few days. Now, we did the predictions video yesterday. I make sure a card pops up so you can check it out. And I did make that prediction. Like, it wasn't official, but I actually said, oh, maybe we'll do Drew versus Sami. And I picked a winner. You have to watch the video to find out who it was. But I caveated it by saying, they'll do it on Saturday, which goes to show that I'm a dumb, bald man and I deserve nothing. But it is very exciting. And it is, like, just sometimes you don't need everything to be eked out for a long period of time. Just get it done, right? Get it done. And it's super interesting because there's no way you're going to start and end the feud here. And Jey Uso was deliberately told to us, oh, he's not on Raw because Drew McIntyre injured him. So just really good. And absolutely, Drew McIntyre, it's been the best year of his career. The character work is excellent. And I actually think that Raw has improved ever since he has come back because he feels like a top star. He's done that with all the stuff that he's done with CM Punk. Like he really did. He got released like in 2017, whenever it was. Or it was before that, whatever. That's mad, right? In hindsight, to think we let this guy go is totally bonkers because he was quietly going to be a success everywhere. But yes, and I loved all the stuff with Seth Rollins before that. I mean, this was the back and forth. We're kind of still doing what we did last week, where there's a narrative thread running through all these feuds. Because CM Punk did the interview first and basically said, Seth Rollins, man, I don't hate him. I don't know why he hates me so much, probably because he has to live in my shadow. And even though I went away for so while, he's still not as good as me. When Seth was like, excuse me, everything you've done, I've done twice as good. I've main evented WrestleMania. Let's not forget that when you loved the WWE the first time, you just ignored all of your friends because you thought there should have been a mass walkout. Now, who knows what's true and what's not true, but a lot of wrestlers have mentioned that CM Punk did just vanish. I don't want to get into the personal state of people's brains because, again, we just don't know. But I do think there's an element of truth in that. So I'm sure Seth Rollins did feel hurt by it, which is when Sami Zayn comes out and they made up, which I thought was nice too. So they kind of had like a mini program in order to filter off these other programs. And to me, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, 2 great promos, by the way, you should go and watch them, feels like a WrestleMania deal, but we are still 4 months away from WrestleMania. We're going to go through the Raw Rumble, we're going to go through the Raw Netflix thingamajig. I mean, the Raw Netflix thingamajig can probably be in a promo off between those two, because I actually think that would draw in the most amount of viewers. I guess the Raw Rumble, one of the inner stories could be those two. What you do at the Elimination Chamber, I don't know. So maybe you can pan it out to WrestleMania, but I do think it'd be quite difficult. I mean, does one of them get a championship before then? And you do it for a belt? Once again, I do not know. And Sami versus Drew, we've already touched upon how Jey Uso gets involved in that. I mean, you are going to have to do Jey Uso, Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre and somebody. at some point, but Drew McIntyre doesn't have any friends. Drew McIntyre hates everybody. Maybe he go get Solo Sikoa. I would appreciate that. The irony of that. The guy that pulled him out of the ring at Clash at the Castle, but he's so far gone, he just goes and teams up with him anyway. Just because now Solo hates Roman Reigns, I'd actually get a massive kick out of that. It would be difficult. You'd have to sell that in the best possible way, but sometimes I like a challenge. And the other great thing, I mean, it was just hater of the year all over the place, because Finn Balor, he's hating. He comes out going, oh, Gunther, you suck. Dominic, you suck. Everybody sucks. I should be the champion. And now that's a triple threat match. I said that's main event, so I have totally screwed up my predictions. So I'll say now that I still think Gunther walks away with the belt and, you know, we'll do something with Finn and Damien that probably leads to a stipulation match on the Raw Thingamajig episode in a few weeks' time. But he's absolutely, I don't know, he's a hater of the year contender, but he's in the bracket. And then the New Day have just, you know, we talked about it a few minutes ago. What a home run they have hit towards the end of 2024. Like, they're in the back, everyone's booing them, so they get pissed off. They're fine. We'll come to the ring. Xavier Woods takes the camera for no reason whatsoever. And then they're just getting absolutely jeered. They're like, what did we actually do? We didn't do anything to Big E. We just spoke from our hearts. We just spoke the truth. And then Kofi Kingston went, Tony Nuts, I could hit him with a sledgehammer, man, but I didn't do it. And Xavier Woods is like, yes, we understand what you're saying, but we didn't touch Big E. It's really, really good because they are being horrible, but at the same time, they come from a place where there's sort of truth to what they're saying. I said there's ups and downs as well on What Culture. Make sure you go check it out right now. Subscribe to them and subscribe to me as well. Click that notification bell too. So damn important. And it's sort of like when you watch a bad movie. This is the analogy I've now said in 3 different places. You'll have to forgive me. But when you watch a bad movie, it's so bad it's good because they just go so far into the depths. Like, well, I'm kind of enjoying it. And with this New Day, it's like they're so awful. And they're such horrible people. When they berated their best friend who was trying to come back from a neck injury, I'm like, you know what? You guys are all right. Because they're just such wonderful villains. I would call them comic book villains, but they're actually sort of grounding it in reality. They're very serious and the performances are really, really good. I just think it's so smart. I think if there was going to be like a smart play of the year awards, I think I give it to the New Day because it's been around 10 years. And to me, they're one of my favorite tag teams ever. I think they could be my favorite tag team ever. I'd have to consider that. I don't know. I don't want to get into that right now, but they're up there, right? I think they're a tremendous group. But they've now reset themselves. They feel completely different. The fans have bought into this, however you want to play that one, because they're getting the desired reaction. It's not like people are going, oh, you silly bean. You know, we're going to sort of cheer you regardless, which can happen with bad guys sometimes. It's not that at all. Like, people really hate the New Day. And some people are already going, oh, man, the fans are only booing because they know to boo. It's wrestling. It's the whole point. Like, everybody wants real heat these days. You're not going to get real heat because the curtain's been drawn back so much, but you can still be annoyed at people and you can still go, I'm meant to boo those guys. That's totally fine. But there are still wrestlers. I mean, look, the New Day aren't them to me because I think I'm just in love with them too much, right? That's the situation that I need to work through. But I'm trying to think of a heel who actually sort of gets under your skin. There will be someone. It will pop into my head at some point. But those people still do exist. And you know they're not actually bad people because, once again, the magic got revealed way too long ago. But you're still like, oh, man, I'd just love to see them get punched in the face. The Jake Paul effect, right? Jake Paul sells so many pay-per-views. I mean, not so much now, but back in the start because people wanted to see him get whacked right in the nose. Anyway, the point is this. The New Day are doing tremendous work, and I'm very excited about it. I really did enjoy Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez in the main event. Anything goes. I've never heard it. I mean, it has been called that before, but it sounded like somebody was going to get a knife and just going to start stabbing each other. Great sort of, I wouldn't call it a statement victory for Rhea because there was a lot of interference. And that's my big problem, I think, with all wrestling at the moment. Everybody has kind of lent too much into this, oh, we'll just do a distraction. And when you do one in every single match, it does get a bit like, you start waiting for it, you time it, you go 8 minutes, and we get 8 minutes, and then we'll get a distraction. Or you get people walking out, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's a wrestling trope that does work, hence why it's a wrestling trope. But you can just do too much of it. You can do too much of anything, right? I remember back in the day, there was one episode of Raw where Steve Austin came out about 8 times, and everyone was like, that was one too many. We love seeing Steve, but he doesn't need to come out 8 times. So that was a little bit of a shame, but it was still a good match. All the stuff with Io Sky and Liv Morgan. I would have Rhea Ripley win whenever they do. Sorry, Liv Morgan I would have win at Saturday Night's main event, and then Rhea probably wins on that Netflix thingamajig. And then we go into Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. I think that's a very, very nice plan. But it was a super good match, and Rhea Ripley's a great wrestler. I think we forget about that. I thought the Lara Valkyria, Zelina Vega, and Ivy Nile Intercontinental title tournament match was perfectly fine. it does feel a little bit lackluster because we're doing the copy and paste job. So now it just feels like one big tournament because that's just what your brain does. But it's good. And I really hope we sort of crown these champions and treat these belts in the way they deserve to be treated, because we should have mid-card titles if we're going to have them for the men. Why wouldn't you have them for the women? And of course, we tied some stuff into the transfer window as well. I think Tiffany Stratton was seen at the background at one point, which I didn't notice until after the fact. And obviously, Cody Rhodes yelled at the New Day and said, "You should be ashamed of yourselves, you disgusting people," because he'd been talking about Adam Pearce. I think that one is going to have more weight and more gravitas once we get this done. I talked about this. I totally believe that Cody and Roman are probably going to Raw because that's what Netflix is going to want. And it means Raw goes back to being the A show. And that's perfectly fine. Moving Gunther and Damian Priest and Finn Balor to SmackDown, I actually think could be a really good idea because it kind of opens up the opportunities for them to do more. There is this rumor going around as well that we may push Finn Balor hard in 2025, and he absolutely deserves it. He's brilliant, right? As I said it yesterday, so I'm not going to say it again. He's brilliant, and he deserves one last proper run so we can all remember this. And if Dominic gets thrown in there and Damian Priest, you don't want to overdo it because they have been sort of joined at the hip for a while. But then what does CM Punk do as well? Because I always assumed CM Punk would go after the World Heavyweight Championship. Does he take the WWE title from Cody? If he does, it's not till way after WrestleMania. But you would imagine CM Punk is someone that Netflix is probably going to want as well. So it's interesting times. Like, it's really, really super interesting times. And I am intrigued to see what we do coming out of Saturday night's main event. Because if we do go as hard as apparently WWE wants to with this Netflix show, we could be in for a crazy month. And, if Kevin Owens does with that WWE title, I'm just saying, the world is absolutely going to melt down. But I think coming out of the Survivor Series, WWE has done some excellent Raws. And because they're 2 hours, a lot of the segments are actually going on social media. So next week, we're also getting Bron Breakker versus Ludwig Kaiser for the IC title. Now, do I think we're going to change that on the Raw once again? Only a few weeks before the big Netflix move? No. But there must be something in that. If Sheamus comes back, are we hitting the repeat and the rinse and repeat button too much? That's a question to have too. But they have a great match, and if you did change the championship, I don't think too many people would be mad that Ludwig Kaiser got that title. I don't mind changing championship that much as long as it actually has meaning to it and you have a story. Like the Jey Uso title win in the summer sort of contributed right into War Games, and it was brilliant and proved to WWE and maybe some naysayers that he absolutely can be a singles champion. And especially after the longer reigns we had in 2023, I think now we can just be a little bit more loose with them. Not like we did in the Attitude Era, where it's like, oh, every 2 weeks we're going to change a title. But I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not married to long title reigns. I don't think it makes it any more prestigious or anything like that. I think ultimately it comes down to the feuds you have and the opponents you take on and how you're able to represent yourself as a character when you do have the championship. But I have really liked Raw the last couple of weeks. Obviously, in another month or so, it's going to go back to 3 hours. At the very least, the debut on Netflix will be 3 hours. It's not a bad thing because, again, they clearly have the content because they're putting it on social media, but SmackDown's going to go to 3 hours as well. I just think the last 2 Raws, this week's and last week's, have been so good at 2 hours that you are going to lose something. There is a magic to them, there's a tightness to them, there's a structure to them, and they just fly on by. And by the time the main event gets there, you're really ramped up because you're not tired, because you haven't had that extra 60 minutes. But I do understand the counterpoint to all of this as well. Of course, I want wrestlers to have more opportunities, because that's the best thing about wrestling is seeing people grow. And if a bunch of people from NXT are about to be called up because they're in the transfer window too, then yeah, absolutely, I understand the extra 2 hours of WWE programming. It just means if you do want to watch anything, everything like me, and I am a nerd, let's go with the 3 hours. So it's 6 hours of WWE. Then NXT is 2 hours. That's 8 hours, right? I'm very, very good at maths. And let's say that Rampage is going away. So you've got 4 hours of AEW. So we're up to 10 hours. No wonder people don't watch TNA. If you want 10 hours of wrestling. Listen, if you can absorb all that and digest all of it, more power to you. I'm very blessed because I get to do it for my job. That's a lot of content. It really, really is. And it'd be intriguing to see how that affects anything because you can have burnout. I don't think WWE is anywhere close to that because they're so hot right now. But you don't want it to go the other way either. But still, in terms of the quality of the show, really good. I thought Raw was excellent. And there's still many characters that we sort of have moved into the wayside deliberately that can come back at any point. Dominic Mysterio being one of them. He's not even really hanging out with Liv Morgan at the moment, which is probably for the best. But when you tell that story and you do pay it off, listen, man, I think one day Dominic Mysterio is going to be the WWE champion. I ain't even kidding. Now, more important than all of this, please do let me know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Drop me a comment below. Again, subscribe, like the video, share, hit the notification bell. Click the video on the screen for my Saturday night's main event predictions. Otherwise, go to grillermind.com/Simon. Use code Simon to get 10% off all their supplements. I did my order today, so now I'm excited. They are the best subs. Also, it's patreon.com/Simon316. Simon316 on social media. And then there's t-shirts, and there's Cameo, and there's TikTok. It's all in the description down there. Click away to your heart's content, and the form is down there too. Please do vote in the Simon Miller Awards. Check out Simon's Pro Wrestling Show on all good podcast apps. That's it, my friends. I'm checking out of here, and I'll talk to you soon.